This is Rocco and Jam Man. It's with Scott from Space Vacation. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. How about yourself?
Hey, man, just chilling, enjoying life, you could say.
Right on.
Yeah. How's life treating you?
It's doing great, man. Can't complain. The new record dropped on Friday. I've just spent the weekend fulfilling orders for the vinyl and watching the stream counts jump and getting to talk with folks like you. And it's been a great time. Been a good ride.
Hey, so life's been good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, for those who are watching and may not be familiar with the band, give me your origin story.
Sure. I mean, I was in law school at the time. My brother was living in San Francisco, called me up and he said, "Hey, man, we got to start a band." My brother, he played a little bit of drums in high school, but as far as I knew, he didn't play any other instruments. So I was like, how is that going to work? He's like, "I'm just going to play bass." I was like, "Well, 4 strings, one knob. I'm sure you can figure it out, but we'll see if I'm going to move out to San Francisco to make that happen." And he's like, "Trust me, man, trust me." So every couple of weeks, he starts sending me pictures of new gear that he bought, whether it's like, "Oh yeah, I got this Marshall stack. Now I've got this Marshall head. Now I just bought a bass rig. Here's my new bass. Here's a picture of my new guitar I just bought." I'm like, "Whoa, the dude's really going for it." And then he says, "Hey, I met this drummer. He just quit his band. He's the sickest drummer in San Francisco. And he wants to jam with us. So get out here. Let's do this." So I was like deciding between living in San Francisco or out in Denver. And since I lived in San Francisco before I went back to school, it just seemed like a good fit. And plus, my brother let me live at his house for free. So that was also great. Started the band, and we were just a 3-piece at the time, 100% energy all the time. But the reason why we made the band the way that we made it was because no one was playing traditional metal in 2007. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. It was, High on Fire was kind of like the big thing in the Bay Area at the time. They're a great band, but they don't have that, that fun vibe to the music. They're, very serious dudes, serious music. And we want to do something that's more fun, like music that you can hang out with your friends and have a good time to. The soundtrack to your daydream was kind of how we framed it. And that's what we wanted to do. And so we were the only ones doing it. We played a bunch of crazy shows with bands that we sounded nothing like. We were too metal for the rock bands, and we were too rock for the metal bands. And so it wasn't until a couple years later when bands like White Wizard started hitting, where the scene started to build itself up organically kind of all over the world at the same time. So it was really kind of fun to be one of the first in on that. But, that's what I listened to growing up. I love traditional metal. I love the spectacle of it, just the way it makes you feel, and, just having a good time.
So you just dropped your new album, White Hot Reflection.
We did.
This is your 5th album. How did you think your band has progressed, your sound, since the first album?
Well, I think the first album was super raw. It was really just, how do we do this? How do we make this kind of music? How do we record in the studio? We were all pretty novice at doing that when we first started the band. And plus, we were a 3-piece. So that was prior to Keo joining the band. And frankly, his guitar playing was a game changer for us when he joined us on the second record. The second record was really just kind of an extension of the first one, but with way better guitar playing. Keo joined when we were about halfway through recording that record. And so we just erased all of my lead guitar tracks and just added him instead, because he's just way better than me. So that was kind of the first evolution of the band. Then we had some changes in the coming years with the rhythm section. My brother ended up moving to LA with his family, and so he had to leave. And then Andy left to work on some other projects at the same time. And then we operated as a 3-piece with Eli, who's our drummer now, but he was also playing in a band called Hatchet, and Hatchet got some really nice touring offers. And so he didn't have time to do Space Vacation anymore. So then we brought in another rhythm section. My other brother, Mark, moved from the East Coast to play bass, or, among other things. And Cubby Bauman was our drummer. And that's when we did the Cosmic Vanguard record, which, the band is always kind of, the music that we create always kind of reflected by the dudes who are in the band at the time. And so that version of the band, Cubby was a really hard-hitting drummer. And my brother Mark was, into a little bit more heavier stuff. And so that record is a bit heavier. It's kind of like a 45-minute punch in the face. And the next record was different again because Mark and Cubby, well, actually, I broke the band up. I was tired. My mom had passed away that year, and things weren't coming together the way that I was hoping they would come together. And so, Kia and I were sitting on all these songs. We're like, let's just record this stuff and we'll use it to start a new band. But the thing is, it's because it was me and Kia writing the songs. It all still sounded just like Space Vacation. So once it came together, we got a couple of friends, Steve Hayes, and came in on bass to record with us. And one of our buddies, Warren, came in to play drums on the recording. And when it came out, we're like, sounds pretty good. It sounds like a Space Vacation record. It's definitely a little different. It was a lot more nuanced than the record before. It also, it was just me and Keo. So I think maybe it was lacking in some influences by the rhythm section in the writing process. So I really like that record. I love how it sounds. I love the songs, but some of it sounds a little bit incomplete to me. And so this record, we've had Eli back in the band. He joined right after Black Divide came out, so he'd be able to play live with us. And then Kai joined up after Steve left. Steve stayed in the band for about a year to support Black Divide, but then he just was feeling it, doing other things, wanted to do his own thing. And then we were able to get Kai back. And Kai had played with us for a bit during the Cosmic Vanguard tours. And so we knew him really well. I was really excited to get him back in the band. He's like a musician, Berkeley School of Music guy, like really knows how to perform, has played on really big stages across the country, great stage presence, great performer, really good guy. And so we kind of had this really strong unit in the band, and we all seemed to work really well together. 4 very different dudes from each other, but what we're adding into this, heavy metal soup seemed to work out. And this is the first record, really, since the first record, where we had the same exact dudes writing for the record that are now still playing the music and played on the record and are going to continue to play. So I think this one was just a real strong team effort and what we were able to come up with. Like, for instance, we never wrote with Eli before. He was always just the drummer, but Eli is a super good musician. He's a good singer. He's a decent guitar player. And he was able to orchestrate the majority of the complex vocal harmonies that we did on this record. So I think it was just getting everyone's input at the right time and being able to produce something that was just a little bit different than what else is going on in the scene right now. So that's a long answer.
I love your sound. You have some old 80s rocker vibes, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're aiming for, with a new twist.
With the industry focusing on singles since the lockdown, what made you decide on a full-length album?
Yeah, we wrote all these songs, back in 2018, 2019, and mostly in 2019. And if we were to release it as a single, obviously, like, this record had some extenuating circumstances, right? We were all ready to go into the studio at the beginning of March in 2020. That's when the pandemic hits, the studio closes, and it took us, 9 months to record the record and then another year to actually get it released. And so now we're working on 3 years of living with these songs. So if we had chosen to release them as singles, we would have had all of these songs come out, but from our perspective, they were songs that we wrote in the specific time period. So for me, I just want to put a stamp on that and say, hey, these were all the songs that we wrote from this time period. This is what we were feeling at this time, and just get it all out there in the world.
Now, I know you have some subliminal messages on this album. How did that all come about?
Which messages? Which ones do you mean? Subliminal messages?
Yes.
Oh, you mean at the end of the track?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, so that was a contentious decision to put that on it. That's not really subliminal. What it is just so the rest of the listeners know, at the end of the song "Out of Time," there's some weird voices that you can kind of hear in the background. that's actually someone who was at a show of ours. We played a festival in Ukiah, California, where we headlined. And after we finished up, there was this guy who had probably had about 7, 8, or I don't know, 47 too many adult beverages during the show. And he was just wailing on, screaming about how great the show was. And then eventually just asked if someone could have a quarter, and we slowed all that down so it sounds all creepy and weird.
Like, yeah,
yeah, he's like, someone give me a quarter. Yeah, there was some interesting decisions putting that one on. That was Eli really wanted to have that guy on there because he's been a running joke for a few years now. Maybe he's a nice guy, but he was definitely in the bag that night.
Get me a quarter.
Yeah, I think he was trying to use a payphone, but I don't know. I haven't seen a payphone since I was your age, so I don't know. I don't know what was going on with that guy.
This album has 13 tracks on it. What is your top 3?
I love Out of Time just because it's a complex song. It's a complex arrangement. There's a lot going on with it. I love the vocal harmonies at the beginning. Rain in Hell that's probably my top 1. I love Rain in Hell. That was the first song we wrote for this record. And the pulsating guitar riff at the beginning was really interesting. Keo came in with that, like, yeah. And we couldn't play it. We couldn't play that with him because it was on a pulse. And so we had to kind of think of how this was going to work rhythmically to work off that really cool riff that he brought in. And so we kind of just dumbed it down and said, okay, well, we'll just go with the pulse. We'll let the pulse control, and that'll be the beat of that part of the song. So that was really fun to write and a really fun song to play live because it's got some good pieces in the middle where it's, you can do some call and response if you want to. I dig that one a lot. And probably my third favorite, that's tough. I love Burn With Me. I think that one's just a straight ahead rocker. We've never really written a song like that before. And that was one of Eli's bigger contributions where he kind of came in and said, hey, I've got all these riffs and parts that I've written over the years. Give it a listen, see if it's something we want to put on the record. But it was all like Casio keyboard sounding stuff. It wasn't with real instruments. So we had to kind of pull out from that what it was going to sound like if we made it into like a true heavy metal song. And we added some parts, we worked through the arrangement, and that's what came out of it. And I think that one's just a really interesting one. So those are my top 3.
Okay. So when are you guys back on the road?
Good question. We signed with a new booking agent about a month ago. We got a couple of tour offers that were not a great fit for us. And so we're just waiting to see what comes through. So hopefully soon, hopefully this summer. We'll see.
Okay. How do you think will be this touring after a pandemic? How do you think this touring will be?
Well, it's been interesting. I know that I had a lot of friends in different bands and spectators went to the Hell's Hero Festival in Texas a couple of weeks ago. And all the bands and half the people that went came back with COVID. So I don't know. Yeah, they all had to cancel the rest of the tour after that. So, I think it's interesting. I think you still have to be smart and safe and careful, but also, life has to go on. So it's finding what that balance is. Yeah. Right? So it's finding that balance, right? You don't want to have to cancel your tour because someone in the band gets COVID. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting probably for the next couple of years. I know from our perspective, we don't like to go on the road for long periods of time. I'd rather go out in short spurts, a week here, a couple of weeks there, which just kind of helps from the overall health and stamina perspective. Going on the road for a long period of time, that's a drag. Unless you have a sick tour bus, in which case it would be awesome, but we're not there yet.
I've been to a few shows. Fans seem more into the shows after not being able to rock out for years.
Totally agree. We played some really fun shows this year. that I wouldn't have expected to be as attended as they were, and people were into it. I've also played some shows where there was no one there for the same reason, because people didn't feel comfortable coming out yet. So it's been a mixed bag. But the shows that are well attended, everyone's super into it. Everyone's hyped to be there because, it was 2 years where you couldn't go to shows. It wasn't happening. You had to watch your
Stay
favorite
back.
bands jam on the internet. Like, seriously, that's super boring. It's boring for us to play. It's boring to watch. Like, I don't know. Not my thing.
What is life like on the road?
We're lucky. We do short spurts. Our last tour was in Europe, and, there was a lot of sightseeing. We played some awesome shows, met some great folks. With Space Vacation, it's kind of fun to travel with these guys. We all get along really well. We all have our own things that we want to see and do. But I think the hardest thing about being in a band is traveling, because you're stuck in the same location with each other all the time. So if you don't get along and you're not flexible and you get uptight really easy, like, the road's not a great place for you. But if you can enjoy the change, enjoy the movement, enjoy seeing new things, and taking advantage of the time that you have in these new places, then it's an awesome experience.
What is on your rider?
On our rider, let me see. Usually it's about gear. It depends on where we're traveling to, where we're playing the show. If we're playing locally, nothing really. If we're playing abroad, if we're playing like in Europe or Germany, it'll be more about the gear that's on the stage, and then to make sure that they feed us. And since Eli is a vegan and Kai is a pescatarian, what is he?
Vegetarian?
Pescatarian. He only eats fish. He won't eat red meat or chicken.
He's one of.
So we have some dietary limitations. We want to make sure that those guys get the kind of food that they like to eat.
So it's kind of hard, you could say, because one guy only wants to eat like carrots and stuff. The other guy only wants to eat like a salmon. And then you're just here, the regular person. I just want a cheeseburger. Man.
Yeah, totally. I just want a cheeseburger. But it's always nice in Europe, and particularly they always feed you before the shows, we loved that, because we would just get our biggest meal of the day before the show, which was great. But of course, then you're on stage, it's like, I could take a nap now. It was worth the trade-off.
It doesn't work both ways, you can say, because if you eat before, then you're playing a show and you got to be hyperactive with your stomach still trying to digest all that food. Yeah. And then if you eat it after, you'll be so tired you don't even want to.
Yeah. The trick is to eat it as soon as you get to the venue, so you have at least a couple hours before you have to be on stage, and everything works itself out okay. But I love traveling. I love being on the road. I love the opportunity to get to meet fans who I didn't know even knew anything about our band. I remember once we were playing in New York, and there were all these guys in the front row singing our songs, requesting different tunes from the different records we've had. And at the end of the show, they're like, "Oh, those your buddies?" And I was like, "I don't know who those people are." They're like, "You don't, they're real fans." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." So it's just a lot of fun to get that reaction from people who you don't know, who know your music, that you've touched in some way.
What is your favorite memory from playing on the show?
My favorite memory from playing a show?
Yes. What's your favorite memory from?
Oh man, there's so many. Let me think. The funniest memory was probably our second show, where my brother, who was still new to playing bass, decided that he would change his bass strings right before we went on stage. And if you know anything about bass strings and stretching them out before a show, he was out of tune for the absolute entire show, beginning to end, no matter how many times he tried to tune it up. And people in the crowd were just screaming at us, "This is unacceptable!"
Unacceptable!
Yeah, they weren't wrong. A really good memory, I think, the show that we played in Amsterdam for the Heavy Metal Maniacs Festival in 2019 was probably one of my favorite shows ever to play. I loved playing that show. It was a big stage with a bunch of diehard heavy metal fans, and then getting them to sing our songs with us. That was a great memory. And another really funny memory is when we opened for Satan in San Francisco, and Keo drank all their beer and threw up in the green room.
Do you have any rituals before you go on stage, like superstitions, like? Knock on wood.
Man, not anymore. I think early on I would, but now I'm just so excited to go out and play in front of people that I'm not really superstitious about it. I just try to do the best I can every time we play and leave it all out there and make sure to give the audience their money's worth. At the end of the day, these people are paying to see you. You need to give them your best and be at your best. So, I don't like to drink or anything before we go on stage. I want to make sure that I'm the best I can be when I'm up there to perform for other people.
What is your worst memory from playing a show? Hey, you were surprised on that one, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's like I give you a present, and then when you open it, I punch you.
Yeah, no doubt. Worst memory from a show. Let me see. I'm trying to think of a specific one. I think it was probably the show that we didn't have. We had a show scheduled at a venue, and we get there, and the sound guy was, he wasn't being very nice to us. He was, he was telling us, we had a band that was coming in from Nevada to play that show, and it was in the middle of a snowstorm and they were running late. And he's like, if all these bands aren't here by this time, then, you're just going to have to pay me for this and I'm not going to do the show. And, really obnoxious. Like I've never experienced.
Why do you got to pay them?
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing because he was getting paid off the ticket sales. And if the ticket sales didn't happen for whatever reason, he didn't want to take a lower cut. Why did you have to pay them? Yeah, there was no agreement to that at all. And so he kept making comments like that over and over again. And finally, I just told the guys, hey, we're out. Let's pack it in. I'll call the guys in Nevada. They're stuck in traffic anyway. I was just telling them to turn around. Like, the show's not going to happen. So that was my worst memory of any like show related experience that we had. And then we one more good one. Our very first tour coming back from Seattle. Our van broke down in Portland, Oregon on the drive back. And we had to leave it there, rent a car, rent a truck, put all our gear on the truck, drive home. And then I had to fly up a couple of weeks later, pay for the van repair, and then drive the van back to San Francisco on what was unfortunately the hottest day of the year in a van that overheated a lot. So we had to have the heat on in the van, and it was already over 100 degrees outside. So that was probably my least favorite memory.
What do you guys do on your downtime for fun?
We each kind of have our own thing going on. Eli, the drummer, makes films and is a performance artist. Keo works on motorcycles and restores vintage cars. Kai also plays with Hellfire, another Bay Area heavy metal band. Reads a lot of books.
Okay.
And I've got a family, so I like to hang out with my daughter and do fun stuff with her.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, well she's 10 years old now, so she's getting to be a lot of fun. And in fact, I just took her for her first singing audition last week, and she killed it. So I'm claiming the genetics behind that one. But yeah, so I do a lot of family stuff. I love listening to music. I love playing guitar. And so yeah, that's kind of what we do.
She's almost as old as me. Right there, almost right there. Just a couple.
Yeah. Party time.
What's next for you? What's next for your band? New album, new single, maybe even a new EP or something?
Yeah, we're probably going to release some more singles from the record, but I think we're 100% behind supporting this album at this point. So really getting the word out, booking out our gig schedule for the next few months to support the record is really, our primary goal right now. Trying to get back to Europe and potentially do some more shows out there. I'd love to get to the East Coast and do shows out there again.
Also, like New York and stuff?
Yeah, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, like the Northeast. Those are always fun tours for us. But it's really just a matter of getting that all lined up at this point. But we've been so focused on getting this record out the door, and it's been such a a journey to make that happen. That, I mean, we're just excited that it's out there and people finally get to hear it.
How do my followers follow you?
Well, we're all over the place. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Our website is spacevacationrocks.com. And if you are an old school vinyl collector, our album, we released it on vinyl as well. And due to the way our contract is set up with our record company, we actually own the rights to the vinyl, and we are the sole distributor of vinyl. So if you want to support us and you want to hear more stuff from us, you can go to spacevacationrocks.com and buy the vinyl directly from us. And it's a double LP pressed on white vinyl and kind of a collector's packaging. So there's pictures in there that span the entire time that we've been a band. So if you've seen a bunch of shows of ours in the past, you might even find yourself in the album jacket.
Have you been keeping tabs on that Johnny Depp trial?
You know, not really. I've seen a bit here and there, but I'm not super interested in other people's domestic issues.
Okay. Did you hear that his wife pooped in the bed? Serious.
No, but that's hilarious.
No, I'm actually being serious. She really did poop in the bed.
Oh man.
When when they ever got into an argument, she would just poop right into the bed.
On purpose?
Yes, on purpose.
Oh, that's gross. Yeah, I've never had that problem before.
Yeah. Besides, bro, she looked cuckoo for cuckoo puppy.
Yeah, it seems like you could just walk to the bathroom. I don't know. Just a thought.
Hey, that's gross, bro. She's
that's super gross, but also kind of hilarious. Like, just think about how mad you would have to get to just poop.
Just poop right in the thing. Like, you know what? That's it. You know what? This is what you get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gangster. I don't know.
Fun question. You're on your death meal. Well, you're on your death row. What is going to be on your menu for your last meal?
Oh, man. You know, I love Philly cheesesteaks. I really do. They're probably my favorite thing in the world to eat. But I also love cake. So maybe both. Yeah, cake. Just.
No, dude, you can get like an entire buffet. It's not gonna be.
Oh, well, then it's going to be, let me see. I will definitely a Philly cheesesteak, sweet peppers, onions, no hot peppers, and a giant piece of birthday cake for dessert.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll do it.
All right. Hey, that's a nice meal. Just finish it up.
And if I could still drink milk, then definitely a milkshake.
Oh yeah, you can drink a lot of stuff. You can drink like soda, beer.
Oh man. Well, I can't. My doctor says I'm not supposed to drink milk stuff anymore. But man,
Why?
I love.
Wait, are you dairy or something? No.
Yeah, lactose intolerant. But you know what? If it's on my deathbed, it's kind of not going to matter at that point. So maybe a giant vanilla milkshake to wash down the cake.
Doesn't it only just give you a stomach ache? That's all it does.
Yeah, it gives me kind of a bad stomach ache, though. I don't like feeling sick if I don't have to.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on my show. The next time we talk is at the backstage at one of your shows, dude.
I hope so. Thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, man.
Metal to you. Nice chatting with you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure for being on my show. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Peace. I got it. Don't worry, don't.